The cameras rolled, the band wrapped up its opening tune, and Bill Maher leaned back with his usual smug grin. He had teased the moment all night, building anticipation. "My next guest," he announced with deliberate pause, "is one of the greatest actors of our time. And maybe one of the angriest, too. Please welcome Robert De Niro!" The audience erupted in applause as De Niro walked onto the stage. His stride was slow but steady, his expression unreadable. Dressed in a dark blazer and open-collared shirt, he looked every bit the seasoned legend. The crowd rose to its feet, clapping and cheering, but De Niro barely raised his hand in acknowledgment. He simply nodded, shook Maher's hand firmly, a handshake that lingered just a bit too long, and took his seat. Maher smirked as he leaned into the exchange. Robert De Niro, ladies and gentlemen, the man who has spent the last 50 years scaring the hell out of anyone who dares cross him on screen. And frankly, off-screen too, the crowd laughed. De Niro smirked faintly, but his eyes didn't soften. He leaned back, arms crossed, as if waiting. Maher gestured dramatically. "Come on, Bob, admit it. You like the reputation. You walk into a room, people sit up straighter. You say hello, they hear a threat. You've leaned into it." The audience chuckled again, but the laughter felt thinner this time. De Niro adjusted in his chair, his voice gravelly, deliberate. "I don't lean into anything, Bill. I just show up. If people can't handle that, that's on them." The audience gasped lightly, then clapped. Maher raised his eyebrows, smirk widening, sensing an edge. "Oh boy, here we go. I love it. Straight to the point." But it wasn't just a joke anymore. Everyone in the room could feel it. The stage was shifting. Maher shuffled his cards, leaning back casually. "Look, Bob, you've been in this business forever. You've played gangsters, cops, boxers, presidents, comedians. Half of America thinks you're a tough guy, the other half thinks you're just grumpy. Which is it?" The audience laughed, waiting for De Niro's comeback. De Niro stared at Maher for a long moment, expressionless, then said slowly, "I'm not grumpy. I just don't tolerate nonsense." The audience cheered. Maher chuckled, shaking his head. "See, that's what I mean. That right there. The glare, the tone. Admit it. You enjoy intimidating people a little." De Niro leaned forward now, his voice firmer. "I don't enjoy it, Bill. I don't even think about it. People project their own fears. They see me and think about the characters, but I'm not acting when I tell someone I don't want to hear their crap. That's just me." The crowd roared with applause. Maher's smirk twitched, his eyes narrowing slightly. He leaned in. "Oh, well, you sure have a way with words. I mean, let's face it. You've called a lot of people out over the years. Some say you crossed the line." De Niro tilted his head, his jaw tightening. "Cross the line? You ever think maybe the line needs to be crossed when people are full of it?" The studio gasped, then burst into cheers. Maher chuckled nervously, tugging at his tie. Okay, don't bite my head off just yet. I'm just saying, some folks think you take yourself a little too seriously." De Niro leaned back, eyes narrowing. "I take the work seriously. I take respect seriously. That's it. If that's too much for people, then maybe they should look at themselves instead of me." The audience applauded again, louder this time, some standing briefly. Maher smiled tightly, adjusting his cards again. "Fair enough. But come on, Bob. This is a comedy show. Lighten up a little. Give me something to work with." De Niro smirked faintly, his voice calm but biting. "I'm not here to be your punchline, Bill." The crowd gasped, then erupted in cheers, clapping furiously. Maher laughed awkwardly, leaning back in his chair. "Well, I guess that's one way to put it." But the tension was there now, hanging heavy in the air. The audience could feel it. The polite applause of the entrance was gone. The chuckles were gone. What remained was an electric energy, buzzing with the sense that something unscripted, something raw was about to unfold, and De Niro, arms crossed, eyes locked, wasn't going to back down. The applause died down, but the tension in the air stayed. Bill Maher leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk, his smirk twitching into something sharper. He tapped his cards against the wood, then looked up at De Niro. "You've always been outspoken, Bob. You don't mince words. But do you ever wonder if maybe, just maybe, people don't come for the lectures? They come for the entertainment?" The audience laughed nervously. Maher's tone carried that signature smugness, like he thought he had delivered a clever jab. De Niro didn't blink. He leaned forward, hands clasped, his voice gravelly but sharp. "What you call lectures, I call honesty. And maybe people need a little more honesty." The audience burst into applause, whistling and cheering. Maher chuckled awkwardly, his smirk wobbling. Honesty, sure. But come on, Bob. Sometimes you sound less like an actor and more like a cranky old man yelling at clouds. The crowd gasped, then laughed nervously. Maher leaned back, grinning like he'd landed something big. De Niro's eyes narrowed. He tilted his head, voice steady, controlled. Better a cranky old man telling the truth than a smug guy pretending he knows everything. The eruption from the crowd was instant. Cheers, claps, stomps, whistles. Some fans stood, clapping wildly. Others shouted his name. Maher forced a laugh, tugging at his tie, but his face flushed red. He tried to wave it off. Hey, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just calling it like I see it. De Niro leaned back, arms crossed, his gaze piercing. You don't call it like you see it, Bill. You call it like you want people to see you. Big difference. The audience roared again, the applause rattling the studio walls. Maher forced another chuckle, but his eyes darted toward the cameras nervously. Okay, he said, tapping his cards again. But let's be fair. You've got a reputation. People expect you to blow up, to snap at someone. That's what they think of when they hear De Niro. Maybe you play into it a little. De Niro's lips curled into the faintest of smiles, but his voice was sharp as glass. I don't play into anything. What you see is what you get. If people can't handle it, that's their problem, not mine. The crowd erupted again, some chanting his name, others clapping wildly. Maher chuckled nervously, gripping his desk now instead of his cards. His smirk looked thinner, less natural. The tension was boiling now. The laughter had died. The room buzzed with an energy no cue card could control. Maher leaned forward again, his voice louder, sharper. All right, Bob, you've made it clear you don't like jokes at your expense. But let's face it, you've said plenty of stuff about other people over the years. You dish it out, but you can't take it. Isn't that fair? The audience gasped, then hushed into silence. All eyes turned to De Niro. De Niro leaned forward too, his eyes locked on Maher, his voice low, steady, and dangerous. I've never hidden behind jokes. When I say something, I mean it. Straight, no smirk. No act. The audience erupted. Cheers, claps, whistles filling the studio. Maher sat back, flustered, waving his hands. All right, relax. I'm just saying... But De Niro cut him off, his voice booming now. No, you're not just saying. You're running your mouth like you always do, thinking sarcasm is substance. It's not. The eruption was deafening. The crowd screamed, clapped, stomped, some shouting, "That's right." Others whistled so loudly it cut through the roar. Maher's face flushed deep red. He slammed his cards down on the desk, his smirk gone. "This is my show," Maher barked, his voice cracking. "Not yours. Don't come here and act like you own the place." De Niro didn't flinch. He leaned back slowly, his expression calm, his voice dropping back to that low, commanding tone. "I don't need to own the place, Bill. I just need to tell the truth. And the truth is, you can't handle it when someone stares you down." The audience exploded again. Some stood up, clapping furiously. Others chanted his name. The chant grew louder, echoing through the studio. "De Niro! De Niro!" Maher raised his hands, shouting over the noise. All right, enough. But the chant only grew louder, pounding through the air. De Niro stayed calm, arms crossed, eyes fixed on Maher like he wasn't even fazed. The camera zoomed in on the split screen. Maher, red-faced and rattled, shouting to regain control, and De Niro, cool, steady, the crowd behind him. The escalation had peaked. The show was no longer Bill Maher's, it belonged to De Niro. The chants of De Niro still echoed through the studio. The band sat frozen, their instruments untouched, as if even they were afraid to break the tension. The producers waved frantically from the wings, their faces pale, their mouths moving in silent panic. Bill Maher gripped the edge of his desk so hard his knuckles whitened. His smirk was gone completely. His voice, when it came, cracked under the weight of the moment. "All right. Enough. This is not your show, Robert." "This is mine!" The audience gasped, then roared louder, clapping, booing, cheering, the sound chaotic and uncontrollable. Maher raised his voice even higher, his face red. "You don't come on my stage and try to humiliate me." De Niro leaned forward slowly, his movements deliberate, his stare unflinching. His voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Humiliate you? You're doing that all by yourself." The eruption was instant. The audience screamed, clapped, some jumped to their feet. Whistles pierced the air. The chant of his name started again, louder this time. "De Niro! De Niro!" Maher's face contorted. He slammed his hand on the desk so hard the microphone picked up the thud. "That's it. Security!" The word sent shockwaves through the room. Gasps rippled through the audience. Some booed, others screamed, others clapped wildly. The tension broke into chaos. From the wings, 2 security guards in black rushed onto the stage. The cameras swung to catch them, the audience shouting louder. Maher pointed toward De Niro, his voice shaking. "Get him out! Get him off my stage!" De Niro didn't move at first. He stayed seated, arms crossed, eyes locked on Maher. Then slowly, he leaned forward, his voice low, devastating. "This isn't your stage, Bill. It's a circus. And you're the clown." The studio exploded, louder than ever before. Some audience members were screaming, others cheering, others booing. The guards hesitated, unsure whether to touch him, the chaos so thick it drowned out everything else. Maher shouted again, his voice cracking, "Out! Now!" De Niro finally rose from his chair. The crowd gasped again as he stood tall, his presence filling the stage. The guards flanked him cautiously, their hands raised but not touching him. De Niro adjusted his jacket, looked at Maher one last time and muttered into the mic, "Calm, final, unshakable. You'll never silence me." The eruption was deafening. The studio shook with the roar, claps, boos, cheers, whistles. And then the guards guided him toward the wings, the camera zooming wide to capture the moment. Robert De Niro, legendary actor, walking off Bill Maher's stage not by choice, but by force. The breaking point had come. The studio was chaos incarnate. The audience was on its feet, screaming, clapping, booing, chanting. The band still hadn't played a note. The cameraman zoomed frantically between Maher's red, furious face and De Niro's calm, towering figure as he was led off stage. Maher slammed his hand on the desk again, his voice cracking as he tried to speak over the noise. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is not how the show works. This is my stage. You don't hijack my show." But the crowd drowned him out. The chant of De Niro grew louder, rhythmic, shaking the rafters. Some fans whistled, others booed Maher openly. De Niro paused at the edge of the stage, the guards waiting for him to move. He turned back one last time, his voice booming into the mic, crystal clear over the chaos. "Respect goes both ways. Bill, remember that!" The audience erupted again, stomping their feet, clapping, screaming. Some were chanting his name, others shouting insults at Maher. The energy was volcanic, raw, uncontrollable. Maher sat slumped at his desk, his smirk gone, his face pale and angry. He tried to force a laugh, but it cracked halfway through. "Well, that was Robert De Niro, everybody. What a performance!" The joke fell flat. The audience groaned loudly, some booing, others shouting. Maher's eyes darted nervously toward the cameras, his hands trembling as he shuffled his abandoned cards. The producers offstage waved frantically, signaling to cut. The cameraman zoomed wide one last time, capturing the chaos. De Niro disappearing into the wings, calm and defiant, the guards beside him. Maher hunched at his desk, visibly rattled, struggling to regain control. The audience screaming, clapping, chanting in a frenzy, and then to wham. The feed cut. No outro, no smooth transition, just a sharp, abrupt blackout. The last image burned into millions of screens was this: Robert De Niro walking tall as he was expelled, his words echoing while Bill Maher sat alone, red-faced and humiliated, his own show collapsing around him.